Hey there, YouTube land. We're talking about the clarinet, and only because of the downloading and stuff here, it's extremely slow. Doing the second video, it may even cut me off on the other one. Okay, so we're on the clarinet, beginning clarinet, or you're just starting with this. Maybe you play the saxophone. This is not intended to be a beginning clarinet lesson because it's not. You have to have some concept of how to play something. Another thing is to practice. I was talking about the embouchure. It's going to depend on what kind of teeth you have. If you have big teeth or little teeth. And one of the other teachers in New York used to talk about this all the time, about how your mouth and your cavity inside, it all matters, and how your teeth are structured, how you're going to actually play this instrument, But what I was trying to emphasize in the part one was the clarinet, unlike the saxophone, is more up and down. When you put your mouthpiece in, have your lower jaw just pulled in a little bit. In the saxophone, it's more out. In the clarinet, it's in a little bit. A little bit. I'm not saying pull it all back like this. No, I'm not saying that. See, that's the thing with the internet. If you say something where it says, "Oh, he said to pull your jaw all the way back," I didn't really say that. I just said just move your jaw in a little bit to make room for this to go up behind the teeth, behind the top teeth, and in front of the bottom teeth. And there's very, very little pressure involved in this. Very little. There's no pressure. So you squeeze so slightly until you can just get the sound to start. It's called air to tone. And you'll feel that sensation. That's the sensation you want. Now, add more air. But you're not squeezing anymore. You found the place. So you pushed your lower lip very lightly into the reed until the sound just started, and now add more air. That's what I'm doing. I'm moving my lower lip into the reed just a little bit until the air starts. Until the tone starts, rather. I'm not changing my air, really. And I know where that point is where I can just start it. And you should be able to play really, really soft. Like super soft. And you can even practice that way. And don't worry about these extra keys right now. This is the A. And I'm just talking about these notes. If you can't control those lower notes, you're not going to control the rest of the clarinet. You're just not. Now, the tongue. The tongue, basically, everybody's a little bit different. So if the clarinet is a little more out, you might find yourself tonguing a little more into the reed. And again, it's not really like a saxophone. I know people, they say, I don't know how they do it, because it's two different instruments. It's not a saxophone. Acker Bilk. See, he used more of a saxophone embouchure, and he played more on the end of the reed. Pt2 used more of a classical embouchure, but also pulled the clarinet out a little bit. See, it's a little different sound. But the traditional clarinet, you know, I always, the Peter and the Wolf. Now, if you pull the clarinet too much in, it's going to go into overtones. Then let it come out a little bit. See what I'm doing? Those are the kind of things, you know, you have to be sensitive to all of that, where it is. I mean, and if you're doing New Orleans, you know, you can pull it out a little bit more and have more of that looser, jazzy kind of stuff. The clarinet will do a million different things if you figure out what to do with it. But again, I can't stress enough on this video. I am using almost no pressure here when I'm playing. I can play for, you know, hours. The tonguing, it's small. You know, like you're sending Morse code. It's small. And as far as worrying about where you're going to touch the reed, I don't know. You kind of got to get a sense for it. It's more like you might be a little more back on the tongue, and then you might be using just the tip of the tongue. And I've had, like I said, again, some of the best teachers, and they don't agree. One will tell you use the tip. One will tell you go a little bit back. One will tell you keep your head up. The other one will tell you put the clarinet out, put the clarinet in. But the one thing I learned is you don't need any pressure here. You practice that sound and then just lightly bring your lips so that you don't have a bunch of air leaking out. But I'm not squeezing on the sides. There's no squeezing on the sides. There is none. The reed is flat. You'll see this on my other videos. The reed is flat and the heavy part is in the middle. So if anything, there would be a little bit going this way, not squeezing up the sides, which would make the reed go like this. No, no, no. There is no squeezing from the sides or pressure from the sides. Nothing. That kind of goes back to Joe Allard. And some people used to say when they went to Joe Allard, oh yeah, everybody has air leaking out of the sides of their mouth. The reason is because at the time, I knew about 10 people that I was immediately involved with, friends of mine, other colleagues, student friends that were studying with Joe Allard. And in the beginning, when they go to him, he would have them change something. That's why there was air leaking out. That wasn't his method of teaching, that there was a whole bunch of air leaking out, you know? But it was this not having this added pressure coming from the sides was the thing. The air to tone, as far as I remember, that was his. I have it in my book somewhere. And also you could practice learning where to place the mouthpiece by gently moving in or out. And you could find all the variables that are in the tones there. Okay? So here we are. I'm blabbing now for 15 minutes, and I don't know if that whole video is going to load. It may tell me it doesn't want to because it's more than 15 minutes. I don't know why. But I don't like to make longer than 15-minute videos anyway, because maybe you don't want to watch the first thing that I have or skip ahead. It's easier to watch the second part. Okay. The only other thing is later on you could practice the 12ths. The clarinet is based on 12ths, and you press the register key, so you have low F, and it goes to C. G goes to D. Low A goes to E. Another little thing I learned from another teacher was, and I thought it was a very valuable lesson. Play the lower note a little bit louder and then back off for the upper note, because the upper note will come out louder all by itself. So just back off a little bit when you go to the upper note. Just a little bit, for the sake of the exercise. I'm not saying every time you do it, but get in the habit of learning that the upper note is going to automatically come out higher, especially when you go into a note like F, and then it's going to go to high C. See, it comes out, right? Just come off it just a little bit, make it more pleasing, rather than go. You see, there's a difference between the two. I don't know if the iPad, because the iPad kind of limits what you can hear, and my internet service here is just horrendous. So these videos are going to take like forever to load. So anyway, whatever. So there we talked about the clarinet, and all I can tell you is you don't want the mouthpiece to be too big. So like I already mentioned, a Rico, like a 0 or a Rico 5, a 5 RV Lyre, Van Doren 5 RV, M30. The thing with Van Doren is they have all these weird numbers. You got to look on the chart and see the ones that are not too open. On the chart in the metrics, something around a 109. That's not a saxophone 109 like in the thousands of inches. It's a clarinet and metric system on the Van Doren. They call it like a 109 or a little bit less, 107, 108. These numbers, they're just like random things to get you into the ballpark. In the long run, I have several Rico mouthpieces of the same number, and they all play different. Even though the manufacturer, whoever says, everyone plays the same. No, they don't. I have 3 of the same number 10, and they all play different. So, but if I have to say, just get one mouthpiece to start, I would say a Van Doren 5 RV with the lyre on the end is a good place. If you want something a little bit less, the 5 RV without the lyre. And that's it. And then the ligature is really important. I would, again, I don't work for Van Doren. I don't have anything to do with them. This is an expensive ligature. It's a good ligature. You have one of these. This is, I don't know how old this is. I've had it forever and ever. I have a couple of these. I would suggest get this ligature. It works. Reeds, just buy the Van Doren reeds. Save yourself a lot of aggravation trying out 30,000 different kinds of reeds. By Van Doren, this is a V12. Sometimes I use V16, all 3.5. This is 3.5 plus. Purple box. But in the beginning, you don't want it too stiff. So if you get a blue box, 2.5 is plenty. You don't need 1,000 reeds. Rico clarinet, Rico, I don't use their products too much. They have a line of classical clarinet reeds. I don't use them. I can't comment on it, okay? I play Van Doren clarinet reeds for as long as I can remember. I played some Oliveris, and I've played some, but I'm telling you, I'm playing the clarinet since I'm 8 years old. And in high school, I started using Van Doren. That was in the early 70s. And I've been using Van Doren for however long. They're not all going to be perfect, but that's what I use, and I can always find a reed to play. This is it, Van Doren. And like I said, I have nothing to do with Van Doren. They probably don't even know I'm alive. Okay, I don't talk to them. But V21, 3 plus. Sometimes the blue ones on the clarinet are easier in the beginning to deal with because they're cut with a longer inside, so it has more support for you. And it's the air. You don't want it to be too resistant. If it's hard to blow into, you might be squeezing too hard. But start with no squeezing. Okay, Bye.